What's up, everybody? So I already did like a regular old non-spoiler review for the OA, and if you want to know like the broad strokes of how I felt about the show, I would say check that video out and then come back and watch this, because this will be spoilers aplenty. But if you don't feel like watching that video, I'll tell you my score. It was an 8.1. I was not sure about how to feel about the ending, and now I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about some other stuff too, but let's talk about that ending first. I'm still really not sure how I feel about the very ass end of the whole series, because it left you with the question of whether or not anything that happened in the show actually happened. Like, is this Lost 2.0 where it all meant nothing because she was just in a coma the whole fucking time and she was just tripping balls? Like, seriously, that last episode was like the biggest cock tease in TV history. You know what? It was a bigger cock tease than a box full of purity rings. Because it gave you all this fucking shit and then it's like, oh, wait, no, we're ending it. And like, there was so much good shit about the show. Like, I liked the majority of the actors and I liked how they represented like trans people in it. And they have like a strong female protagonist. And Jason Isaacs is a fucking creepy, weird, evil dude. And like, all the characters are fleshed out. Like, this is a very well written show. I binged the whole fucking thing, I think, in like 1 or 2 days. So like, I was really fucking invested in this show. And then that last episode, like, I felt things and I don't have a name for those feelings. Like, it was like shock, dismay, and also like, is that brilliant? I'm not sure. Because I'm a firm believer in like, when it comes to film, like, it's not always about what you do see, it's about what you don't see. If you want to see a prime example of that, watch the final cut of Blade Runner, you'll know what I'm talking about. What you don't see in this show raises so many questions, and it's almost like, it is literally one of the most frustrating endings to anything I've ever seen. Because it's so fucking far-fetched, like everything that happens like in the last 20 minutes of the episode. But it's also brilliant writing at the same time. Like, who would have thought a fucking school shooter would have just popped up out of nowhere? But at the same time, the odds of that happening in this particular school with 5 kids who are like attempting to bring people back to life, the odds of that happening at the same time are like 1 in 11 billion. Like, you can't even calculate the odds of that. And the guy that tackles the shooter is the fucking like lunch cook or whatever. Like, fucking for real? I know I'm sounding pretty aggressive right now, but I still love the show despite all the things that I'm saying. But it was just so made my brain want to explode. And I said it in the other video, the whole interpretive dance thing, like the super intense facial expressions, totally took me out of the show. Like, I immediately, when I saw like that was like a focal point of the show, I'm like, this is the most like douchiest, like cunty, wannabe Cirque du Soleil bullshit I've ever seen in my life. Like, they could have just made it like a series of hand signals, but they had to incorporate all these like facial expressions that was like way too intense. Some people might not be as pissed off about that as I am, but I just couldn't fucking stand it every time I saw it on the show. So in the last episode, when all school shootery shit's happening, and then they all just stand up and start doing the creepy interpretive dance, I was like, fucking, can we not? Because it brought the seriousness factor of the last episode down about 50 notches, and I was like, oh, fucking Jesus. See, if it was just hand motions, they all could have stayed under their desks and did that, and it would have been a little bit more tasteful, I think. But anyway, all right, let's talk about some other stuff now, because I'm slowly having an aneurysm right now. One thing that I thought was very well written was the scene where the, like, angry kid kind of stabs the OA with a pencil. I was like, ooh, fuck, all right, that was a nice little plot twist. Like, and she was so chill about it, and I was like, awesome. Like, that whole scene was just like really well done and I kind of liked it. I also loved some of the parental dynamics, especially like Alfonso's mom, who is a cunt, by the way. However, at the same time, she's like proud of him and is actually like very encouraging. The scene, and I think it's like episode 4 or 5 or whatever, where they're talking in the parking lot. She's like, look, I gave you the tools that you needed to achieve what you've achieved. But at the same time, I'm so proud of you because you did more or better than what most kids could do with what I've given you. And it's like this really endearing speech about how much she loves him and cares about him and like respects him as like a person. And it's like, Jesus, like this broad is like Shrek. She has layers to her. Like, she's a total twat and I would not want her to be my mother to begin with, but like still, at least she has like some semblance of humanity, which I thought was like really a fucking very like revealing scene. I also liked Prairie's dynamic with all of her parents, like all 3 of them. Like, cause her dad, when he blasts that like ice in the lake open in the first episode, you're like, oh wow, this dude's fucked up. Like, fuck that guy. But no, he's trying to teach her strength and say that like, hey, I'm here for you to help you be strong. And I'm like, I never would have thought to have ever written anything remotely as fucking decent as that. Like, anything between like father and child where their like bond becomes stronger and they're just like symbols of hope for each other is like really awesome. Like, you can tell like when they're talking on the phone that they have like a really like this strong bond, but they just like, they're there for each other to be strong for each other. Like, it was just well done, you know what I mean? Plus, the actor that plays him is one of the Russians from Daredevil. Fucking love that guy because he is a badass in that show, and then he has like this vulnerability as a dad in this show. Like, that guy's a good actor. I don't care who the fuck you're talking to. And then you have her adopted parents. First of all, Herschel. Love that guy. I really wish they would have fleshed him out a little bit more, but mainly because I just like that actor because he played Herschel on The Walking Dead. That's pretty much it. But even like the dynamic between him and Prairie's mom had like a lot of depth to it because when she doesn't tell him about like the runaway letter or whatever the hell that was, and he's like expressing his anger by not saying anything and just eating and just trying to like be like, dude, give me my fucking space. That whole scene was really like captivating, and I kind of identified with that because when somebody pisses me off, like I don't want to say anything to them to like hurt them or make them feel like less of a person. So I personally just like stay fucking silent and just shut them out. Like it might be a little bit neglectful or it might feel like it because I'm giving them the silent treatment, but I'll usually say, just stop talking. I don't want to talk to you right now. And then just walk away, go about my thing. And then when I'm done being angry, I'll usually apologize and we'll talk and, figure it out. So I really identified with that dude just as a whole. And the mom, I'm still really not sure if I like her or not. Like she's a well done character and she's a like well fleshed out character, but I'm just not sure if I like really like her because she's kind of a backstabbing bitch because she didn't tell Herschel about the letter. So that was kind of a cunty thing. Also, when she slaps Prairie, it was like a very selfish maneuver because Prairie's just trying to explain to her like, okay, this is I can only tell you what I know, so this is what I know. It's really far-fetched, but this is what's up. And then she just bitch slaps her across the face. And it's like, okay, dude, I get it. Like, you went through a traumatic experience with losing your child, but it was like, you didn't have to fucking slap her. Like, you could have just said, shut up, or we'll talk about this later. And it was like in public. She just seems like a shitbag person, but she ultimately cares because she tries vehemently to talk to Herschel. And sorry, I keep calling him Herschel. It's just how I identify him. But she talks to Herschel because she cares about him and she doesn't want to hurt him. Like, she basically did what she did. She had her reasons. I just don't like the reasons very much. And I understand why she slapped Prairie across the face because it was just like, hey, do not belittle what I went through by giving me this bullshit. Like, I understand that, but I, like, would never have done that in a million years. But anyway, the last thing that I really fucking thought was awesome about this show was the fucking visuals. The visuals are insane. Like, especially, like, the Russian, like, mountains and scenery and, like, the really long, like, bird's eye view tracking shots of stuff like that. Like, that was all, like, I was just like, wow, that looks awesome. But besides that, like, Prairie's, like, otherworldly mother, like, whatever the alternate universe or whatever the fuck that is, like, the Star Room where they're just morphing and demorphing and, like, moving and shifting the whole time, that just felt like the movie The Fountain, if any of you have seen that. Super trippy, and realistically, it's probably, like, a simple-ass effect. Like, they just probably had, like, small spotlights and they just moved a bunch of mirrors around or something, but it doesn't matter because it looked amazing. If you like the way that shit looked, I would say definitely go watch The Fountain because you will be wowed, like, for sure. And the last thing I'll talk about is, like, the part where she says Homer at, like, the very last 2 seconds of the show. I'm not gonna put any stake into that because one of the underlying theories about the show is that the majority of the show couldn't have not happened because she could have gone in a coma as soon as she fucking got in the bus accident. So her adopted parents and all that other stuff, that could all have never happened. And this is all her experiencing a trip while, like, in a coma. And it could be like the ending of Lost where, like, none of it actually happened. She was just passed out in a fucking hospital bed. So there's that. And the fact that she says Homer, like, that's the last line in the whole show, that could mean one of 10,000 things. Either A, she did get to the alternate universe, which is very possible because she did experience a near-death experience right before she said that, which, again, another thing I thought was far-fetched as fuck when she got shot at the end. I was like, really? B, she could just be seeing blurry vision and one of the EMTs could just look like Homer. Or she could be dying and she's just saying Homer because, like, that's her fucking mantra or something. Again, a lot of cock tease at the end of this show. The one thing that I hope is true, because that would just be fucking awesome, is that this show is tied to Stranger Things. That's one of the theories that's going around town right now. Even though really the only thing these two shows have in common are nosebleeds and supernatural things. But you know what? A kid can dream. But anyway, after talking about all this stuff, I still really enjoyed the show very much, and I'm definitely gonna watch season 2. And I think I might have upgraded my rating a little bit to, instead of an 8.1, I think I'm at an 8.5 out of 10 now. Because if you take out the last episode, the rest of the show is actually really fucking amazing. And like, I love the music and the acting's for the most part pretty good. Like, there's a lot of shit to love about this show. But anyway, enough about my thoughts. Did you see the show? Let me know how you felt about it because I'm dying to hear what other people have to say about it. Other than that, if you like this video, drop me a like, subscribe, do all that other bullshit, and I'll catch you guys later.